You're listening to a Meldo Entertainment original podcast. Hey everyone, and on this episode I am joined by Samuel Hunter. He is one of Australia's elite male escorts, and we chat about his journey into the industry, disability, burnout, and his love of espresso martinis. So why not join us right now? How did you get into the industry?
In 2019, I was working in a sex shop in Western Sydney, and I read this article about a woman who was fighting a woman with MS who was fighting the NDIS about using her funding to access sexual services, and she eventually won that case with them. But I kind of spoke to the manager of the sex shop about it, and she told me about Touching Base and the documentary Scarlet Road. And I guess I started thinking about like the issues people with disability would have in exploring their sex lives, their sexualities, etc. Like even in terms of working in the sex shop, like most sex shops in Sydney, this was upstairs and it was completely inaccessible. But like, I mean, heaps of people to that say, but you can buy everything online these days. But if you can't push a button, or if you can't reach the toy to where it needs to go, you don't know until you go into a sex shop and actually hold that item and try to push those buttons, etc.
Yeah, exactly. And then you've got to do a refund. If you buy online, you've got to do a refund, take it back, and there's so much cost involved. And mostly those people don't have the funds to be able to do that all the time.
No, but on top of that, because of the item that it is, unless it's a faulty product, you can't get a return on a sex toy because
totally.
Right. So
yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
And then the societal, what I guess most people look at people with disability through the medical model, where you are broken and we must fix you. That whole gaze that happens there. So at the time I was pretty I had a pretty low self-esteem at the time, and but I thought about it that day, and I was like, I wonder if that's something I can do. And I went to the decision that I could, but then I kind of was like looking in the mirror going, well, I could, but I'm not going to ever get booked, so I'll just leave that. And it was about a year later till I actually went ahead with it in 2020.
Yeah. So had you had previous connection with disability at all before that?
Actually, not really. So after that first COVID lockdown in 2020, I did the pool funds from Super, and I used that to build a website for Samuel Hunter and start advertising and doing all the photos and everything. But I also did my training to be a support worker through Higher Up, a disability support worker. So that's when I started interacting a lot more with anybody with a disability.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really good. And do you find now that your self-esteem has increased from what you do, seeing you're connecting with those people that may need you the most?
Yeah, kind of. It does. And then I'm like, is this false self-esteem by having these people kind of build me up? Is that actually how I look at myself? And look, it's a day-to-day thing. Some days I'm like, oh, what am I doing? And then other days I'm like, fuck yeah, dude, looking sharp, let's go.
You know what?
Just,
I think we all go through that because I've been going on 19 years, and even recently I've had days where I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? But then you've got these good moments of like, I know how much of an impact I'm having, not only on myself, but other people, and it makes it all worth it. And I'm getting the sense that you feel similar to that.
yeah, definitely. But
Yeah.
like in terms of how we're viewing ourselves, like
Hmm.
it's pretty rare that I take like, especially like a nude mirror selfie or something, that I'm like, hey, that's pretty hot. And then I've kind of done a bit more in the last few months, and then I was like, actually, I don't mind that. And then that's sort of how I finally went, yeah, maybe I will start an OnlyFans.
Have you found the more clients you see that you've found more positives for them and that's impacted you?
It when I started, I didn't really have any idea of what my clients would be like,
Mm.
why they'd be looking for a worker, etc. And it's been uh, like it's continuously just hearing feedback from clients about what a difference it makes to their life in general. Like not even just oh, that was heaps of fun, and I had this amazing sexual experience or whatever. It's the how that then bleeds into the rest of their life, whether that's their confidence or like having a better way of like setting boundaries in their personal life.
Mm.
Recently, this is probably the strangest one.
Okay.
A client was like, they were really, impressed by like my website and the way that I presented myself, etc.
It
And
is
so they've
pretty
gone
good.
in
It is
and
pretty good.
they've got in with their own business that they've got, and they're going in and reworking the website and
Huh?
um, their social media and doing all this. And yeah, they were thanking me specifically for that, and I was like, well, okay,
Well,
that's new.
you must be good. You must be a good website model then, but not in the way that you thought.
Well, I just went with a minimalist approach because I'm like, I don't like big cluttered websites, and I just want it to be.
No, well, I thought it was really good. And then when you said you did the social media for touching base, I thought, well, that's pretty cool. So how did you get into that?
Uh, when we had that massive 4 month lockdown in Sydney
Mm.
in 2021, I was kind of looking at where I wanted to go with my career uh, in sex work and how I could start giving back a bit. And touching base was the reason I was even in this
Yeah.
work, and I was doing well from it. So I kind of wanted to give something back, and they were pretty inconsistent with their social media stuff. And so I emailed them and it was like, hey, are you looking for someone to take over your social media? Like, you don't even have an Instagram and that sort of thing.
Oh,
And
okay.
they just grabbed me and went, yes, come and help us out of this.
Oh, that's
And so
awesome.
I've been,
That's pretty good now.
yeah,
Yeah,
so I've been with them just a bit over 2 years, I think.
that's awesome.
Like, but like the referral list with touching base is,
It's
like
huge. Yeah.
yeah, and so they'll get sent, X number of names for them to pick from, and maybe people just want somebody younger, etc. And that's fine.
Just put a wig on, you know? You're
Just
fine.
put a wig on, get some
Okay,
Botox. Just
you can tell how popular I am. I just say put a wig on, you're fine. That's my answer to everything. They get a bit hot though, and then your brain goes a bit mush. Anyway, I'm waffling. I'm waffling. What I was going to say was, would you consider, as you moved on in your career, would you consider just staying specifically for those with people with disabilities, or would you continue doing the whole shebang? Just anyone?
I'll I'll keep seeing everyone really
Yeah,
until if there's a boundary broken,
yeah,
then
yeah, for sure.
obviously that's how that works. But like I don't make any uh, judgments about anybody except on
That's good. Yeah,
how they behave. Just
yeah. I had no idea that you were actually seeking me out because you hadn't approached me. So we were kind of in that same boat of like too scared to approach each other, which was kind of cool. Thank you for reaching out to me. I appreciate it because yeah.
Well, when you first started following me back on Twitter and I saw you were like liking some posts and I was like, oh, okay, should reach out now, but it was just immensely busy, and so
yeah.
the list of everything that I had to do and emails and messages to reply to, I was like, oh, I've been overwhelmed, and then I was like, oh, it's been 3 weeks now. It'd be weird if I reach out, and so
No, I didn't mind. It's good to be busy though, because I feel like I don't know, for me it's more fulfilling when you are busy, but then you get burnt out, which
look, the burnout thing is interesting. Like at the
yeah.
moment, I'm essentially, it's nearly 4 months till my next available time, right? But that, which sounds huge, but there's a few weeks in there where I'm off on a holiday on my own. I'm going away in a week for writing.
Very nice.
And then just having my set days off each week.
Yeah.
So it may sound like it's a long way away, but it's not. But like I'm doing heaps and heaps of work. I still try to have that balance because like in 2023, in 1 month in particular, I worked far too much. I probably saw way more people than I wanted to or should have.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that I was burning out. It was more there was just too many people and I couldn't remember some new faces that I'd seen. I'm like, I spent 4 hours with this person. How can I not picture what they look like? Because it kind of just went into a blur. And then I'm like, I need to cut down to this 4 days a week thing because for my sake, but also for my clients' sake, they're not getting the best of me.
Exactly, because I'm getting a sense from you that every client you see, you just want to give 100% of yourself to, which is awesome. But you want to have the energy to be able to do that too.
But look, essentially that's what they pay for. On my anonymous questions, people are like, oh, would you ever date a client, that sort of thing, and I'm like, you probably wouldn't want to date me. Like, I can be a really good version of me for 4 hours, absolutely. But then I'm gonna, smash a pizza and binge watch something on Netflix until 4 a.m.
Yeah.
You don't want to date that guy. I think that's probably the strangest thing about the industry and that sort of thing, about how you then are perceived, but by your clients, your potential clients, and even your peers. Like, I was at a swap gathering last May, and I met these two fellow workers, and they were like, oh yeah, we saw you at the gala, but we kind of felt a bit too nervous because you're this elite escort. I'm like, are you kidding? I'm just this dude.
No,
I was so thrown by that. I'm like, oh man, I thought I was approachable, but yeah, apparently not.
Well, yeah, that's interesting that you say that, because I told you of the story of why I didn't show up is because I just didn't feel like I fitted in. And so yeah, it's interesting that you say that. And yeah, it's really intimidating. So not even that you were trying to be intimidating for them, but they obviously look up to you, which is awesome.
Yeah. I also feel that the event you didn't come to, and you said it was intimidating because everybody was there bundled out the front. It was, for the amount of people, it was quite a small venue. Like, there was just people everywhere, and then spilling out the front in droves.
Oh my gosh.
Whereas like the year before, there was more space and it was more spread out and people didn't feel so overwhelmed.
So not really good if you have major anxiety.
Oh, look, I mean, I feel like heaps of workers are neurospicy and have this sort of thing. My friends who were like, oh, I'm so stressed, I don't know if I'm going to turn up. And
I'm
but
glad
we were all saying that.
One then, because it was because we'd made, Corky and I had made all this effort to go, and then we were like, oh, we can't. We saw all these beautiful people walk in, and we're like, oh.
It's such an event, people travel from all over the states, so you catch up with friends that you've met before but don't get to see often, and then meet the people who you chat to online that you haven't had a chance to meet in person before.
That's really
great.
good. Yeah, I suppose it's worth the time and the effort to get dolled up, so I'll have to go to more of it next year. Also, I was just going to mention too, with your progression to online work, how do you feel about like you mentioned earlier, starting your OnlyFans? Do you feel like that was a progression that you weren't really interested in making and having because of lockdown, or?
No, like it wasn't. Like I've literally started putting things onto this maybe 2 weeks ago, and I've not even officially shared the link anywhere.
That's cool.
The people who know that I'm doing it, they've gone and looked and found it.
Cool.
And I'm just trying to get more content up before I kind of push it. But no, like for years, it's not been something that's interested me so much. Because like a few content creators had reached out and asked to shoot, and I was like, it's not my thing. And I've kind of realized that what a lot of people put on their platforms, that's not my thing. That really performative male gaze, jackhammering and deep throating people. I'm like, that's not me. And I guess now I kind of feel that I'm at a place where if I do collaborate with somebody, I can kind of say, hey, I just want to do this, nice kind of intimate scene like this. And then, because you're collabing with me, if you like, I can do the jackhammering male gaze thing for your platform, if you want that.
Yeah. I guess also with online work now as it is, you've got more autonomy too. So as you're saying, you've got hard limits of jackhammering that you don't want to do, and that's completely fine because your space is your space. Which, for some people, showing their face is not a thing, and they want to stick to brothels and stuff like that. I was just wondering how that transition was for you.
Well, look, it's at the end of the day, like the platform isn't about putting porn out there as such. It's just I guess just a deeper level of things that I can't put on, say, Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah.
And like at the moment, everybody who follows me on that platform, except one, is clients that I've met, still see whatever.
Nice.
And that's kind of the idea, is that it's like, I have clients on the opposite side of the country who I might only see every 3 or 4 months, and that they kind of want to see more often, but it's just not possible. So this is kind of a way for them to connect and stay up to date with things and get some pervy photos.
Yeah.
But like, I'm doing like reading some of my poetry videos on this. It's not just a porn thing for me. Look, it's important about having that visibility of you doing what you're doing, because like I think I told you this after we started chatting, that I was talking to one of my clients who's a paraplegic, and I think we were talking about porn and stuff, and she's like, I'm not the sort of person that goes that people want to see in porn, and I was like, excuse me, have you heard of I'll show you Melina? And her just showed her your Twitter.
Yeah.
And she was mind blown by that, and was really and then in the biggest coincidence of all time, it was later that night was when you followed me back on Twitter. I was like, oh my God, your ears must have been burning.
I think it was. Yeah. So that's awesome, because I think that's the whole thing of my work, is if I've inspired, well, not inspire, I hate that word, but if I've encouraged someone to be more content with themselves, if they've got a different physical exterior to their norm, if you like, if I've encouraged them to be themselves, then hey, I've done part of my job already. So thanks. That was really nice of you. Thanks for that.
In those like anonymous question somebody asked. They said, "Why are you lowering yourself by starting up OnlyFans?" And I was like, ugh,
Oh.
that's gross. Why do you think that it's lowering yourself? What things have
Yeah.
you been conditioned to learn to think that creating porn or whatever
That's
is
bizarre.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I found it quite interesting because there was one dude, hopefully, who got cancelled, and I think I've heard a few other stories of other content creators who kind of look at full service as lowering themselves because they're like, well, when I'm making content, I get to pick who I'm working with as opposed to doing full service. I think it's just, I don't know. We all have these different ideas about what we do. Like it's,
Yeah.
you've got your whole bodily autonomy, etc.
Yeah.
But like I'll see anybody who sends through all the required details, etc. Pays their deposit. I'll see them definitely one time, and then maybe we won't gel or
Yeah.
whatever. That's fine, and that can be either way. But like, I don't think I've ever met somebody the one time and been like, oh yeah, no, I don't think I'll see them again for X, Y, Z. The
Well,
only
that's good.
kind of time that ever happens is if somebody's pushed a boundary or broken a boundary.
Yeah.
Or in one case, how they reacted when I did establish quite a soft boundary, and they, kind of didn't take that well and went
Oh.
a bit off the rails. And I was like, yeah, no, this is not fun. You can leave
So
now.
what was the soft boundary? I'm intrigued now.
It sounds really odd. They were like, we were lying in bed, and they kind of put their closed fist up against under my chin and pushed it a
Oh,
little bit.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And
Oh,
I was trying to put it as lightly as possible. And I was like,
yeah.
it'd be nice if you would not punch me in the face.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
because like it
Yeah.
wasn't hurting me, but it was, I don't know, there was something about it that didn't sit well with me.
Yeah, fair enough.
And then she just went like silent for like 10 minutes. And then I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to go sit in the other room. This is not a fun
Yeah.
vibe to be around. And she kind of just said, I don't, how can you see me as that sort of person
Hmm.
that I'd do that? And I'm like, oh, it's not, didn't
No,
have to
it's
go
about
this
your
way.
comfortability then. Yeah.
Yeah. And all I did was try to say in a lighthearted way, I'm not comfortable with what you're doing. And then you've reacted
Yeah.
just poorly to it.
Wow. Yeah, I wouldn't want to, yeah. I wouldn't want to go there again, babe.
Yeah, no.
Absolutely.
And it's, yeah. And it really, at the end of the day, it wasn't that pushing their fist against my chin. It was more how they then reacted when I set that
Yeah.
boundary. And I just
The
went, yeah, no,
slight, the
I'm
slight
not comfortable with
aggression
that.
was like, no, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you had a moment where you're like, yeah, this is where I'm meant to be, this is like my thing.
I guess I've kind of felt that for a while. It's probably more when, when it's not this is my industry. It's more the, how is this my life? How is this my job?
Mm. I've heard you
Like,
say
it's
that a couple of times now, and I'm just like, I'm glad that you feel that because it's like how you feel then more blessed and more gratitude within yourself. So that's awesome.
well, like there's that, but then, when like that time when I first heard about touching base, etc., and I was
Mm.
working in the sex shop, and it was a real low point in my life. I was broke as shit.
Mm.
And um, when I reflect on where I am now in every possible way, I'm just like, how did my life go from that to this? And how is
How
it?
did it flip? Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was like as in, I have so much gratitude for the job that I have and the people that I get to meet,
Mm.
and where it's taken me to, even in being able to give back where I can.
Mm.
And like, I don't know if any listeners know this, but oftentimes there are workers who on like their close friends Instagram stories may say that they're really financially struggling or whatever. Or there's a group called Oz sex work promos, I think, on Twitter.
Oh, yes.
And they put up, we have a worker who needs, $60 to pay for their medication, something like, and being able to do that is good because like in 2019, if somebody gave me $50, that would change my week. It would change.
Oh yeah. Feel you. Yeah.
And just I always feel that looking back to 5 years ago, just thinking how different things are, and it's good.
You're feeling like the sense of community within sex work is really important to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've met quite a few sex workers. Like every few months, I often have a little peer gathering at my place. Like I'll just put out one of my little platters or a big platter, depending on how many people are coming.
Yeah, nice.
And I don't know if it's because
really
we're all
lovely. Yeah.
neurodivergent people, and I'm like, I get on with a lot of these sex workers that I've met, and it's great energies, and it's a good community.
Yeah, and I guess I'd be really thankful for that too, because there's some, I guess you would feel this too, but there's some points in all our careers, I guess, that we just feel so isolated. So having that opportunity is really great.
Well, that's really right, because I mean, most of the time we all work on our own, and it was at least well over 6 months before I even knew that there was such a thing as sex worker social media, which is when I started connecting with some peers online. And then it was another 6 months after that before I worked with anybody. And then I started working with quite a few people, and I was like, well, like in doubles bookings, that sort of thing. And and I realized that heaps of people were exactly where I was at, that we didn't really know anybody. We generally were on our own. We didn't get to meet people. And that's when I started hosting those little peer gatherings, just so that people can meet.
No, it's really great. I was going to ask you what your favorite alcoholic drink is, even though I know the answer. I'll let you tell everyone.
Sure, I feel like everybody knows the answer because I post it all the time, which would be, oh no, actually, you probably think it's something else. Okay, I feel like you're thinking whiskey.
Yes, I was. Yes.
Yeah. So
I thought you were becoming more X-rated for a moment there. That's why I was like,
oh yeah, no. Lefroy whiskey is this peated, smoky Scotch whiskey that I love. But like the drink that I probably make the most is an espresso martini, and like it's usually what I'll order for my first drink when going out somewhere. It's kind of like the day is over. You're no longer drinking coffee. You're moving into an alcoholic beverage. Let's combine the two.
Coffee. Yeah. Yeah. Well, because you said you make them, you're not going to have to make me one because I've never had one.
Okay. Well,
so when
you're in Sydney, absolutely. Oh yeah, I have to. When I get back home, I'm planning to try to rejig my my recipe because it's a bit strong.
Okay.
It's like 3 standard drinks.
Do you just mix it up depending on what your vibe is? You just make up the recipe depending on what your vibe is at the time?
It's a very I'm very particular and measure it perfectly every time. But I just have to change the ratio of it and find something that still tastes good but is not as strong alcoholic wise.
Yeah.
And even I found that I had to I had a client who I'd see every month, and we would have 2 espresso martinis in our time together.
Very nice.
And after they'd leave, I was like struggling to get to sleep. At 3 or 4 in the morning, I was like, I've got to do something about this. So I've actually, because I grind the beans and make the shots of espresso that I use in them.
Yeah.
And I switched them out to decaf beans, and that's been a great thing.
Yeah. So it still tastes the same though. There's no
taste.
Oh, that's good.
Oh no, so when I said something to that client like 6 months after I changed them to decaf.
Yeah.
And I said something about them being decaf, and she was just shocked. And I was like, oh, it's been like that for months, and she'd had no idea. Yeah. So I do kind of get a feel from clients that I see, say when I'm hosting them and I'm making them cocktails, about, some people like, oh, I'm a bit of a lightweight when it comes to drinking. And I'm very conscious about how much alcohol somebody consumes.
Yes.
Like, you can get a little bit tipsy, but anything beyond that, then it's kind of negating consent.
Yes,
so
exactly.
I'm quite try to be very conscious about how much people are consuming.
Well, I think I've learned a lot from you. I'm still very intrigued by you though, and it's a good place to leave me, because I'm still like, very intrigued. So thank you for this. It's been really good.
It's been good chatting properly,
Cool.
like fully.
Yes, well, we'll chat more soon in person, but obviously,
yeah,
it's been really good to get more insight into you and how you come about into the industry and stuff. So it's been really good.
Well, thanks for having me on, Mel.
You're more than welcome. Come back anytime too. with your espresso martini in hand, of course.
Yeah, and as soon as you come up with more bullet points to ask me.
Oh, well, yes, thank you. I might need pushing in the right direction for that, but clearly I didn't pass my journalism area. Clearly I'm better at sex than journalism, but anyway, I do try. Anyway, thank you so much. It's been awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today, guys, and I look forward to bringing you the next margarita sessions.